Hey guys, for the first episode in this Nano tank build series, I thought I would show you how to take a tank apart, and we're going to use this tank, and we're going to have to scrape the glass clean. I'm going to use some acetone to get the paint off, and then we're going to work on the inside and get all the silicone off, and we'll actually break it down into panels. As you can see in here, I don't know what's going on with this silicone. It's pretty thick. I got this tank from Billy Pipes. Maybe he let Waffles silicone it. I'm not sure. But I know that you can pick up this tank for, I don't know, $20, $30 and be right where you want to be. But I just thought it'd be a good project to show you how to take a tank apart. You may want to take apart a standard Aquarium tank and change the dimensions of it. At first I couldn't get the paint off of this tank. I don't know what Billy did to put this paint on, but it came off in little chips, even with a sharp razor blade. So I chose to soak a rag with acetone and kind of move that around on the paint, and it did help a lot. It was very helpful. Acetone dries like super fast, and if you plan on doing any kind of tank, taking down a tank or resealing a tank, you'll want to have some acetone on hand. It does help you clean up paint and silicone very well. Now, because it dries so quick, I noticed it was useful to pour some on a paper towel and just kind of wipe it and hold it on an area, give it a little more reaction time than it just running off and evaporating right away. And then try to stay away from the edges at first and just to get the bulk of the middle off. Your razor blade will last a lot longer. You're going to hold it at a nice flat, like 45-degree angle to the glass, and then you can see where the razor blade starts to stutter. And at that point, you'll probably need to soak it a little more with some more acetone and keep it moving. So you see I've gone mostly through all sides of the aquarium. I spared you the tedious work. And believe me, if on a smaller tank, it's not worth resealing or scraping paint off if it's only a few bucks to get a new one, unless you have a lot of time. You know, your time and your budget is up to you. So you see them kind of moving around the paper towel, letting it sit there, and then I can get to work with it with the razor blade. Now, the other thing about razor blades is you'll notice a brand new razor blade is just so sharp, and then it's dull in a few minutes. The way razor blades are made is they have a micro burr on them. And when you're pressing against something hard like glass, you notice every once in a while just flipping it over because you've rolled the burr the other way, that you can get a new sharp edge. And you can do this a few times for each razor blade. So I guess that's enough about taking paint off a tank. So we can proceed to removing silicone from the glass. There's a few things you need to know about it. First of all, there's two things you can do to a tank. You can do a reseal or a rebuild. A lot of people on older tanks choose to reseal them, which just leaves the silicone stuck between the two pieces of glass, but takes off everything that's exposed inside the tank. By doing that, you're still leaving the little bit of silicone behind that has the glass glued together, and you're pretty much like replacing the gasket. The other thing you need to know is if you are going to take all the panels apart, that you may want to mark your panels, side, front, things like that, and take a good look at how the bottom is. Some tanks, the sides and front sit on the bottom plate, and on other tanks they're under the bottom plate. But basically you want to just keep going back and forth from the angles, once up the side against the glass and once up the front against the glass, or however you have it, until you can get that big bulk loose and get that out of your way. So of course I did way more footage than necessary for the average video, and I thought I'd speed this up for you. If you're just resealing a tank, in other words, you're just going to remove the inner gasket, you would have to do all of this and then painstakingly try and clean up the edges, because new silicone does not stick to old silicone. But if you're going to be breaking the tank down. Don't worry too much about the seams because it's much easier to do once the panels are flat and on your workbench. I should also add that even if you don't plan on rebuilding a tank, this is a great way to reclaim glass for making sump baffles, or if you have a cracked tank and you just want to replace one panel. This is all pretty helpful. But as you see, I get most of the bulk out of there. And then we go into, still high speed, of course, removing the actual glass panels. You try and work the razor blade between the front and side panel and try to rest it against the piece that is overlapping. In other words, you don't want to run against the edge of the glass because you can chip it. So as I work it up, you'll notice that I can slowly but surely get the whole razor blade through the seam. And sometimes it takes a little prying of the silicone, or you can even leave a razor blade in there as a wedge. But once you get it to start lifting, then you work the bottom. I like to try and cut it a little bit and then tip it and see it came right off. And that's when you can clean off your ends, once you have the panel flat. Now, I spoke earlier about marking your panels, front, side, back, bottom. The reason for that is once they start coming apart, you'll notice that they're different sizes. Your side panels are not as long as your front panels. So having them marked just makes it easier through the cleanup. Now, so once you have the panels flat on the table, it's a lot easier to finally clean up, do a final cleanup on the edges. A nice new razor blade for working on the flat area of the glass, and hold on to some of your old razor blades for working the edges of the glass. That will burn up some razor blades quick. And hats off to Deep Blue Tanks for not only polishing all edges of the glass, but also beveling them, making it a pleasure to work with. Compared to some of the other tanks I've taken apart, they have sharp edges where you would never think of running your finger down them. And then for a final cleanup, I used a Scotch-Brite just on the edges, and then followed up with a little acetone. So thanks for watching, and in the next one we're going to work on gluing this all back together and coming up with an idea for a all-in-one to put a false back on the system. See you next time.